Financially, they control the world, whether you like it or not. When those Americans in Charlottesville were holding their tiki torches, talking about the Jews will not replace us, you never saw a single Jewish man on television complaining. They complain with their finances. Their dollars speak for them. Jews do not go and borrow money from anybody. They fund themselves. They're probably the most powerful people financially. Their money speaks for them. What did we do instead when George Floyd gets killed and many others were on the street? We make noise and that's it. If everybody that protested could put $1 and say, yes, we want to protest, but we're also going to do something about it, now we could get somewhere. We could get somewhere. Translate those voices into finances. Let's make that bridge. Let's create that bridge. Let's take a page from the Jews. Let's understand that as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth. Let's also make a commitment that how long are we going to allow this carnage to go on? How long?
Now, this is Arikana Chihombori Quao, who is always bold in agitating for issues that are affecting the African continent and mostly the blacks. It is a paradigm shift. Why do we say it's a shift? It's because we have to realize our value as Africans. Because for us to move forward, we have to know that this is what Africans stand for. We have had our resources. Our resources have been exploited behind our backs. What do? We have to unite as Africans and form one currency. The West or the whites do not want us to build this united front of Africans. So in this video, let us watch it with one key agenda to understand why Africa is so much held down that the whites don't want it to rise. So let's watch and make a comment in the end.
Me to share with you briefly that in 1945, 13 Jewish men met in the library. They didn't even have a place to meet. This was soon after Holocaust. The ideas they came up with during that meeting were based on two facts, two realizations: that there was a need for them to unite, for them to speak with one voice when it comes to issues pertaining to them and their country. They also realized that their unity was useless if they did not back it up with financial resources. So that is all they did. They united. They said, we may not like each other as individuals, but when it comes to their Jewishness, when it comes to Israel, they stick together like superglue. They also pulled out their financial resources. If I may stop for a second, use Israel as an example and the Jewish people. The Jewish people own this little bitty tiny little piece of land, which is a desert. There's only 15 million Jews around the world. Compared to Africa, we have the largest landmass on earth, richest continent on earth, and over 400 million African diaspora. The Jews, with their little bitty country that is a desert, financially, they control the world, whether you like it or not. When those Americans in Charlottesville were holding their tiki torches, talking about the Jews will not replace us, you never saw a single Jewish man on television complaining. They complain with their finances. Their dollars speak for them. Jews do not go and borrow money from anybody. They fund themselves. They're probably the most powerful people financially. Their money speaks for them. What did we do instead when George Floyd gets killed and many others were on the street? We make noise and that's it. If everybody that protested could put $1 and say, yes, we want to protest, but we're also going to do something about it, now we could get somewhere. we could get somewhere. Translate those voices into finances. Let's make that bridge. Let's create that bridge. Let's take a page from the Jews. Let's understand that as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth. Let's also make a commitment that how long are we going to allow this carnage to go on? How long are we going to continue to be stupid? It's about the finances, my brothers and sisters. If we do not bring our finances together, if we do not understand that my $85 a month for a year is an investment in not only myself, but my children, my grandchildren, and generations to come, then who are we? What is the solution? Understand that the brain drain out of Africa started over 400 years ago with the children of Africa who were being taken out of Africa as slaves. Remember, when they were choosing which Africans to take out as slaves, they chose the fittest, the smartest, that who they felt would sustain and survive the rigorous journey across the Atlantic, followed by those who have left Africa in recent years in search of greener pastures, some running away from famine and wars. But the end result is Africans around the world are building other nations while we are allowing our beloved continent to languish or be exploited. The colonizers have been in Africa for centuries. All they have succeeded at doing is building infrastructure designed to do nothing but extract resources out of Africa. That's all they have done, and that's all they plan to continue to do. We're the only ones who can change that paradigm. And that means the African diaspora must wake up. That means the African diaspora must understand what is really going on and not understand Africa from the eyes of the colonizers, from the eyes of the media that have chosen to paint Africa as a diseased and dying continent in need of rescue. Let's understand our Africa as African diaspora. Let's understand our role. It's very difficult for African businessmen in Malawi, in Botswana, to think continental. They're struggling to make a living in that little bitty country with all the restrictions and the difficulties of reaching to the country next door, to then ask that same businessman to think continental. But the people who can help with that bridge, the people who are already integrated in a way, people who can come to Africa with an integrated mind, are the children of Africa in the diaspora. Like I said before, $1 million diaspora with $1,000, that's $1 billion. $1 billion is a lot of money. And then you take that 1 billion, let's do it a year in and year out. Financial resources, we need to pull our funds together. We need to begin to look at our continent as a continent. What do the market women in Africa need today? How do we begin to make it possible for the market woman in Nigeria to sell to the market woman in Kenya what she cannot find in Kenya but is in Nigeria? How do we begin to loosen those trade barriers? It's a level one. I'm hoping that the African Continental Free Trade Area can begin to address those issues. But looking at what we have right now, when you see countries still blocking borders, still making it difficult for Africans to travel freely around the continent, all of our challenges, if you begin to understand them, they all go back to the mind. We must open up our Africa. We need a single African currency. It's just that simple.
Yes, as we always say it, that Africa must rise. It has to rise because we are also a race. The blacks and the whites are a common race. God never preempted a situation whereby the blacks will be different from the whites. We are all equal in the eyes of the Lord. And that is why you see someone like Arikana Chihombori giving a bold speech that highlights why Africa has to pull up its socks and know where it belongs. Africa has suffered along the way since slavery period, and you know how slavery was, and millions of people died because of that situation. And that is why someone like Arikana Chihombori tries to say that the reason why Africa has never gone forward, or the reason why we are still in this kind of neocolonialism, is because we've never united in one front to fight the common enemy, and the common enemy is poverty, and the poverty is created by us. Why do I say that poverty is created by ourselves? It's because we have so much been dependent on the whites and how they do their things, and we expect that they are the gods who will rescue us from these situations that we are facing. Look at Kenya. Recently they took a loan, that is IMF, or the IMF tried to formulate ways of giving them loans, and this brought a lot of challenges in the country in a manner that even protesters wanted to oust the government. It calls for a question why we have to depend on loans and not stand on our knees or even on our own, because Africa has got vast resources as compared to any continent. You know, Africa is the richest continent globally, and it has a lot of resources. If you go to Congo, we have gold. That is the most precious metal on earth, but still we find that Congo will never have peace. Why? Because the whites have choreographed a way of maintaining or siphoning these resources from Congo, and they siphon it by creating fracas in the country so that they never realize their value. So as Africa, and in this channel we always agitate, or we always champion for ways of realizing value of Africans, because we want to move forward. We never want an equal society. We need an environment where everyone feels that belonging and that part of the old struggle of the world, because someday, all these races will unite and there will be no white or black. Black will marry white, white will marry black freely without any barrier. And it has started now. That is the message we bring across, because Africa must rise. Black must realize its value. Whites must know that blacks are their brothers. Now, hit our comment section and tell us what you feel about this story Arikana is trying to highlight. And also, if you're watching us for the first time, kindly subscribe so that when we bring a new video, you get a notification. Also, most importantly, like and share our video. Thank you, and may God bless you.